Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being on our program. I'm Armando F. Sanchez. I'll be your host today. I have a wonderful, wonderful story. We're going to have a wonderful Latina on the show today as she is preparing to go to Switzerland. Now, she's not going as a tourist, she's going as a student. And she's doing a graduate program. Ivonne Mungia, she's over there in the Inland Empire. I think it's the Riverside, San Bernardino area out there. Mostly a little bit of a desert area. It is, there is mountains in the back. There is snow, a little bit of it up there. And the whole idea of going and transferring from Southern California, beautiful schools, beautiful environment, and now she's going to Switzerland, which I personally think is even perhaps more beautiful than here. It's a very special place. Switzerland is a special part of my heart. My wife and I just got back a couple of months ago, and we just fell in love with it. So thank you very much for being on our show, Ivonne.
Thank you for having me.
Ivonne, tell us about, now before we get into the whole idea of you doing a master's, an MBA program, Master's in Business Administration, an MBA program in Switzerland, let's sort of backtrack a little bit. Tell us about your background. Where were you raised? And we'll eventually work our way up to find out when you got this crazy idea.
Sure. So, well, first I want to start with saying that it's Ivonne Cano, and Mungia is another show. So we'll leave that for the next episode.
Got it.
And so I was actually born in Mexico. I was born in La Ciudad de Mexico. I came to California when I was 4 years old. I grew up in the Inland Empire, Corona Riverside area. I went to high school at La Sierra High School and Eisenhower High School. Sort of at midpoint, my parents decided to move. And then I went to college at Cal State San Bernardino, which is one of the California State Universities here in California. And after graduating from my undergrad, I was on the law school route. So I actually got into law school, and I did 1 semester in law school and realized it was not for me. It was a certain amount of work that I just wasn't willing to really invest into, knowing that it was not where my heart was. So for me, it was a really hard decision to drop out. I especially would make fun of people who would drop out after first semesters, and I ended up being one of them. But but ultimately, it was the best decision I could have made. So shortly after that, I thought, what am I going to do? I can't just stay not, having a career path. And so I right away started really investigating an MBA. And what I loved about the MBA program is that it kind of in law, you can sort of go into different kinds of areas. You can go into marketing, you can go into business development, you can go into entrepreneurship, and so on and so forth. And so I liked how diverse it was. Now, having just, left the law school route where everything is very analytical and very focused on, even the pedagogy is very different than, any kind of other type of program that you will ever go into.
Sure.
I wasn't focused. I tried taking the GMAT. I was scoring very poorly, and I needed the time to sort of figure it out.
So your heart wasn't in it, really, bottom line.
No, it wasn't. And I think it was primarily because I didn't see it. It's very hard to do something when you don't see it. And so what I ended up doing is I ended up just taking these events coordinators and project manager kind of jobs, and that eventually led into communications and marketing. Now, one thing I love is being with people, around people, communicating with people, networking with people, and so I found a knack for marketing, and so I continued in marketing, and I've been in higher education marketing for about 9 years. And so
now what was your undergraduate major in?
Criminal justice. And the reason why that was because the paralegal studies program fell under criminal justice. And so I was actually taking paralegal courses my entire last 2 years of my undergraduate career. And so what I decided to do was, after a few years, I went back at it and I started looking at an MBA again. I did a lot of research, different programs here in California specifically, because we have some of the best universities in the world here in California.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to stay here. Then I started, which brings me now to the decision to go to Switzerland. I met a guy in salsa class, and we
Salsa.
met
Dancing?
salsa. Yeah.
Okay. All right. You piqued my interest.
Okay, so we met, and he was at the time doing some research at one of the local research universities, Loma Linda University here in California. During that time, we really got to know each other, and we started to date, and then it was time for him to move back to Switzerland. So at the time, we decided, do we continue in a relationship, or do we, go our separate ways? And we decided that we would try the long distance thing and try to figure out how that would sort of, what that would lead into. And so he moved back to Switzerland. We decided we would continue our long distance relationship. And then at that time, I came and visited him in Switzerland. And while I was there, we started talking about, the future and sort of what I wanted to do with my career and stuff like that. And I had mentioned that I really wanted to get my master's, and he encouraged me, and he was very supportive. And at the same time, he gave me an opportunity that not very many people get, which is to move to Switzerland, and he would help me, and not only just support me emotionally and just to be there for me, but he offered for me to live with him, and to be able to be on this path, and try to see, of course, would this work out between us, living together and stuff like that.
Okay, so you go to mom and dad and you say, Mom and Dad, I'm deciding to go study in Switzerland. And at the same time, in your head, I'm going to go study in Switzerland. I mean, How did you react when you first put the idea in your head, and how did they react when you first put the idea in their head?
Yeah, well, I have to backtrack a little bit, because when we first originally talked about me going to Switzerland to study, between my boyfriend and I thought it was the craziest idea. That was the farthest thing from my mind. I thought maybe doing an internship, or maybe doing like a study abroad as part of my MBA program, but I never thought actually doing the whole thing there. And so when that happened, or that decision was made, it just felt like the strangest decision to have made. But everything has really fallen into place, and I'm not just saying that because I'm less than a month away from moving there, but little by little, I got the GMAT score I needed to get into the program. They gave me a $10,000 scholarship, and then I got another $10,000 scholarship with them, and things like that, where they just, when things needed to happen, they were happening. And so that I can't take that for granted. And of course, his support and his family support and his friends and people in Switzerland have already been so responsive and just so supportive of this whole idea. So now I tell my parents that, well, it's all about wording. So I tell my parents.
A diplomat at the very end. I love that.
And I tell them, I've decided that I'm gonna get my master's, and they've known this for a long time. They've known, especially since I dropped out of law school, and my father wanted a lawyer in the family. So when I dropped out, he was very, very disappointed. So I tell them I'm going to get my master's, and then they're like, okay, great. So, what's it going to look like, and, where's it going to be? I said, well, it's going to be in Switzerland. And both of them just sort of froze a little and just digested it and did not immediately react. I think they probably thought, oh, it's another one of her crazy ideas. We'll see if it, if it really happens.
Otra locura esta hija de nosotros.
Yes. I've been sort of the outcast of my family, because I always have the crazy ideas. Law school, who does that? And so, I think at first they thought it's a really long shot. We're not there yet, and we'll see how this sort of plays out. And throughout it, I've kept them in the loop. I'm applying. Okay, I got accepted. Okay. I got the scholarship, great. And so, not once have they guilted me. They've been very supportive. I'm also not a little girl. I'm not fresh out of high school or fresh out of college. They understand that I'm in a position where I know what I want, and I know that, and they trust me. I think they trust that I'm making the decision for the right reasons and not because I'm trying to go on some wild adventure, but I'm really taking this MBA very serious.
It is a wild adventure. It should be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. You're in the middle of the country, in the middle of Europe, with all the possibilities of in every country in the world. I mean, it's really awesome. I mean, I love to travel, as most of my friends know. We've covered 70% of the world now, and my wife, we're gonna try to make it 100%. You mentioned about scholarships. I want to stop here for a second. I want to mention that I do understand that there is a site where people can learn more about your travels, what you plan to do, and people can contribute to your scholarship. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest barriers so far has been funding. When you study abroad, usually you go for like a part of your normal, as an undergraduate, you go as part of your normal curriculum or your normal studies. Well, when you do a master's, those opportunities are not really available. So you don't get FAFSA. Banks are not willing to lend you money to go abroad to study. And so, unless you take personal loans, of course. But so I've really hit a wall here in trying to come up with the tuition cost. So right now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to fundraise $15,000 to pay for my second part of my tuition. What people can do to help is I have a crowdfunding site. It's called crowdrise.com/Ivonne Cano. And people can log on to there, and it has a video sort of explaining a little bit about my past, about my history, but also explaining what I want to do with my MBA. It has some really fun photos of when I was a kid and how I grew up how immigrants come to this country. There was 8 of us living in a 2-bedroom house, and with my grandparents and my aunts and my uncles and my parents and myself and my brother and so on and so forth. So I share a little bit about that story on the site, and also people can contribute. So all of that money goes directly to my scholarship and is going towards paying for my tuition.
Awesome. And we're going to continue to discuss that right now. So the idea that you're going, what benefit do you think is different in getting an MBA in Europe, Switzerland or France or Germany, whoever, versus just having gotten it here in your own backyard?
So I think what sealed the deal for me was visiting the campus and sitting in on a class. And what that allowed me to do was see how they teach, for example, let's say economics. So when you teach economics in the United States, you're teaching it on a very centric level, right? So how does the economy work here in the U.S. and how does it affect the rest of the world? Well, in Switzerland, that economics course will now turn into how do the economics work here in Switzerland compared to Britain, compared to Germany, compared to Singapore, compared to Australia and the United States. So it's a very different perspective. It's very global in the sense that people can now view these different subjects, but based off of how they're done around the world, and not just like, oh, we're Swiss and this is how we do it, and this is the right way to do it because it's how we do it. No, this is how we do it, and by the way, this is how everyone else does it. And so that's a very interesting way of learning things, because I think we not only focus on it's not very centric, it's not very the world revolves around us. No, it's very how do we collaborate? How do we now bridge the gap of trying to work as a global society?
And then the irony that your family, yourself from Mexico, United States, European perspective, and then I understand that the mixture of the students that you're going to be studying with also do not all come from Switzerland. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. I've been in communication with about 20 of my classmates so far, and not one of them, I think the only 2 that are the same are Germany. There's 2 from Germany, there's 1 from France, there's 1 from Italy, there is 1 from Bolivia, Peru, Canada, Australia, and they're just from all parts of the world. And that's one of the things that we all love about our own classmates is that we were able to sort of find that middle ground in this program, and we're just so excited to meet each other, and just, you know, every single person who joins the group just says, I can't believe we're all from all over the world. It's going to be amazing. So it's pretty awesome.
So does your group know that you know how to salsa and you're willing to help them out?
Not yet, but
But
they'll
you're
know.
gonna make sure they find out about that.
Oh yes, that's going on my curriculum.
You know, one of the things you highlighted right now is the idea that you're not only going to have classmates, but going through the whole program, you're probably going to make friends with people around the world. That network will be yours for the rest of your life.
Absolutely, and I think that's a certain level of value that other programs maybe lack or don't offer exactly, is the ability to now have a network that's worldwide. And that's something that I was definitely looking for in a program. It's something that created value where I am in my career and in my life, because I could have easily gone to a part-time, you know, program here in California where I go once a week, or, you know, it would have been much more cost effective in the sense of being able to continue to work and, you know, have still a life here in California. But what this is a game changer for me. And I'm excited to know that it's a game changer for a lot of people in my class as well.
Absolutely. Like you said, you're going to be meeting people from Asia, from Europe, different parts of it. And you're really touching the world, because these are major economies that are not competing with us now.
Absolutely.
So your parents already have their mochilas ready to go and visit you in Switzerland?
Maybe you can talk to them?
Yeah, I will. Not a problem. Go. Anyone, go out there. You'll love the place. It's really wonderful. So is your skiing abilities up to par to go skiing in some of the best places in the world?
Oh man, so I visited Switzerland in 2015, and let's just put it this way: it was the first time I had ever been in real snow, not the little melting snow on the side of the road. Do you know what I mean? But real snow.
That would cover over you, huh?
Yeah, absolutely, and it was an experience. And yes, of course, I said I'm in the Swiss Alps. Why wouldn't I want to ski? The problem is that, so I've never been in real snow. I've never been on skis. I've never been on a hill that high without something to hold on to. And so, of course, it was, and then, and I must add, there was a blizzard that day. So it was, there was no sun. The bits of snow that were coming down were hitting you at like 15 miles an hour, or maybe even 20. It was intense. And so I did get down the hill without breaking anything, but it took me about 2.5 hours, which would have normally taken you about 15 minutes to come down that hill. So,
well, we're going to have to follow up with those stories with you as you're going through the program as well. So I can see you being on the program multiple times and just keeping us abreast of how you're doing. Again, could you please give us the site where persons watching the show can go, learn what you're doing, and also contribute?
Absolutely. So it's crowdrise.com/Ivonne Cano. So that's IVONNECANO.
Wonderful. And this is something that persons can always continue to support, not only right now as you're getting ready to leave, even while you're there, you always need a support. You need a little bit of money for that. Different kind of clothing, you're going to need that. I don't think you can give it aside. Last point I want to sort of highlight here is, so are you still very nervous about going, or have you sort of made the decision, I'm going, and you know what, no matter how I feel moment by moment, this is going to happen?
Absolutely. I think I finally passed that threshold about a month ago. But up until then, I just kept thinking, okay, is this really going to happen? Is this really coming true? Is this really, is this really where we're going? And I'm halfway on that boat, but it's very stressful, as you can imagine, moving your entire world, halfway around the world, everything from, and my dog is coming with me. And so, both of us are traveling to Switzerland, and my boyfriend, again, has been incredibly supportive in even just allowing him to move in with us. And so, you know, it's very exciting. I'm very, very looking forward to finally getting there, because this has been almost a year and a half in the making. And so I'm very excited to be there. But yes, I'm very nervous. It's the first time I'm ever going to be away from my family. It's the furthest I've ever lived from my family. And so it's going to be, I'm just glad I'm going to be very busy with school, because otherwise I think I would have, I think I would be really sad and thinking that I'm missing my family and friends.
Well, the thing is, we have technology now. We can communicate in this form, so it's not the same, but still there is new kinds of communication. As we're getting close to closing the show, could you tell us one more time where the site is, please, for people to be able to donate and add to your scholarship?
Sure, absolutely. So it's crowdrise.com/Ivonne Cano.
Okay, and one final question from my end is the idea is, how do we all benefit? Everyone that's helping you in the scholarship, how do we benefit from helping you?
That's a great question. I really thought about this, because I had to find value in being able to push a nonprofit. I'm sorry, a crowdfunding site. You know, a lot of people sort of now, anybody for any reason can open one of these up. And what's your story? And I think the mission, my mission, I think, is what people should really think about, because what my mission is to create, and this is sort of my motto, is to create an environment of sustainability for giving back for all companies and organizations. So even though I want to go into business development as a career path after my MBA, part of my mission in completing my work is going to be to provide an environment in which these organizations can give back, because that's where everything is going. I mean, you see it in even Tesla, even where I get my glasses from, Morby Pearl, they give a pair of glasses to someone in a third world country. Tom's shoes, that's where we're going, is becoming a global community where we help each other out. And so every company, I think, has an opportunity to do that, and that's my goal, and that's my mission, is to create that environment where people can these organizations can give back.
Okay, very quickly, one more time, please, your site.
Sure, it's crowdrise.com/Ivonne Cano.
Okay, now I have my own personal question involved in this place. First of all, I want to applaud what you're doing, because I think you're setting yourself as a role model by accident, by design, by default, if you will. And it sounds to me like you would encourage other Latinas and Latinos to also see beyond just the borders of the United States and see themselves traveling to other countries, whether it be an exchange program or doing a full program, whether it be master's, PhDs, whatever. And so it seems to me that that's sort of coming about by our interview today. So I applaud what you're doing. I know it takes a lot of courage to do that, and go ahead and do it, because our kids, my daughter went to Boston for 4 years, and it was very foreign to leave Los Angeles. And then my son did also a master's in Harvard, and he just froze to death. He hated the cold. But closing statements, your closing statements, and I'm going to ask you at the end to once again, please give us your website. Closing statement.
So, well, I can end with this, and it sort of shows my commitment to our community as well. When I worked at Cal State San Bernardino, not only was I an alum of the university, but I really focused on mentorship, and I think that that's really important. And I think that that's what my journey has been up until now, is providing people the opportunity to learn from the experiences of somebody who's a first-generation college graduate, who came from, went through the whole immigration process and became a naturalized citizen and all of that. But now, with this opportunity to get my master's, I'm going to be able to offer so much more. And what the value of not only career connections, but having somebody even just in Europe in general, to be able to call up and say, you know, I'm looking at this opportunity, I'm looking at this school, I'm looking at this job, I'm looking at this career path or whatnot. I think that's how I'm going to be able to be of value to my community. I've been, you know, a member of the Alumni Association. I've done all kinds of nonprofit events, and you know, I've always been very involved with our community here locally, and I think that this opportunity is just going to be able to widen my claws, where I'm going to get my little claws into with all these little areas and stuff like that. So I'm just really excited, and I want people to know that I'm not running away from our community. I'm just trying to open it up.
Look, on the contrary, you're bringing in new resources and new ways of thinking to the community as you go out there and bring it back. Absolutely. And talking about networking, the importance of knowing people, the importance of supporting each other, we want to highlight also Felix and Zuniga and their kids. They brought this connection together. As I'm ready to sign off with you, Ivonne, one more time, please give us that website.
The website is crowdrise.com/Ivonne Cano.
Thank you very much for being on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just been my pleasure to highlight another wonderful Latina who's a leader. I sense a great deal of passion in what she wants to do, and I see a long-term commitment. And please go out there, learn as much as you can, enjoy yourself, visit all the countries you can, and bring back all that unique information back to our community, and encourage others to also expand and add to that information base that we can benefit as well, because you're right, the 21st century is a global world. It's no longer our own backyard. And we also applaud and recognize the parents who are supporting you on this venture. I know that on one hand, parents are parents at any age, but we also see the need for that. So un aplauso, que tengas muy buen tiempo, and I'd like to have you back on the show once you're in Switzerland and find out how you're doing.
Absolutely. Muchas gracias.
Ándale pues. Adiós. Buen viaje, and we'll keep in touch, okay?
Thank you, Armando.
Okay, adiós. I'm supposed to sign off here?